The following program is brought to you by Bruce Telecom.
I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting of the town of Saugeen Shores. And again, the first order of business is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind every member of the responsibility. Nothing. There's no additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda. So the next is a motion, and it's adoption of minutes, and I have a motion that's been moved by Councillor Madison, seconded by Councillor Mike Myatt. The council adopts the minutes of the council meeting of September the 10th, 2018 as presented. Are there any errors, omissions, or comments? If none, all in favor? That's carried. Next is the Committee of the Whole minutes of September the 10th, and it's been moved by Councillor Mike Myatt and seconded by Councillor Madison. That council note and file the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of September the 10th, 2018 as presented. Any errors, omissions, comments? All in favor? That's carried. The next item is a report on municipal officers, and there's a staff report to accompany this. We'll take any questions after we get the motion on. And it's to do with mileage policy, and it's been moved by Councillor Dave Myatt and seconded by Councillor Grace. The council approved the revised mileage policy. Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed of any? That's carried. The next item then is Economic Development Committee report. It's there, I guess, just for information items, and if you would like to, anybody would like to speak to it. Any questions? Do you would like to speak to it? The chair? By all means.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the Economic Development Advisory Committee is, we've been quite busy over the last couple of years, putting together our strategic plan, reviewing the Business of Bruce strategy, and we had that Economic Development Forum at the museum. You may recall the bomb threat. I think that we all do. Anyway, through all these processes, we've reached out to stakeholders, citizens, business owners in order to create a plan to ensure we are positioned to catch all of the opportunities that happen through development with Bruce Power. Our hope is to make sure that if any of that economic development or economic fruit falls, that we're here to catch it. I wanted to take an opportunity to thank all the members of the committee that participated over the last little while. They've been a real joy to work with. When we were developing the strategic plan, we were down at the fire hall in Port Elgin, and we had an opportunity to spend some time together and try and figure out what the real issues of the community were from a business perspective, to try and make sure we were ready. And one of the things that came up going back to the labor shortage was that there weren't enough, wasn't either enough housing for low-income earners or enough low-income earners in the community. So we were looking at solutions around transportation and solutions, obviously housing. And the funny thing is that when we had the open forum at the Bruce County Museum, then the same issues continually came up. And I think that's something that we as a council, or the future council, will have to really take a hard look at. Because one of the things about putting together a strategic plan or having these forums is they can either be pieces of paper that sit on a shelf, or we can actually get to work on it and try and implement a lot of the things that we need to do. I think there were 35 or 37 individual suggestions in the strategic plan, and that's going to take a lot of effort in order to achieve those goals. One of the things that we've done is there's the Rural Economic Development Fund. So we've applied for a grant for that in order to try and kind of position ourselves to have additional labor to follow through with all the goals and initiatives that were brought forward with the strategy. So I think the key is when we look at when we look at the EDAC report, it shows the work that's been done, but what it really does is it highlights what needs to be done far into the future. So yeah, thanks again to the committee, and thanks to Jessica. One of the great things that came up in that forum was what a great job Jessica's doing, so I'd like to take this opportunity to thank her as well.
Great. I think we recognize that. Thanks very much, John. Any questions of John or on the report? If not, then we'll move on to bylaws. And the first one is a bylaw to authorize a site plan agreement with Microtel, and it's been moved by Councillor Minaj, seconded by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber. that bylaw 80-2018, being a bylaw to authorize a site plan agreement with 16151381 Ontario Incorporated, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of October 2018. Questions? Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I did call in to speak with Jay today and did mention it at the commit adjustment when we were looking at this original site plan agreement. And obviously I support it. I'm moving the motion. But what I wanted to do was to talk about possibly a once in 4 years review of all the site plans. And I think that we did that once this year, and I think I'd like to think that council would carry that forward with staff owning the site plans, saying, you know, in this particular case, this one is going to have the rear border of this not have any treatment done to it, anything special done to it, even though we're advocating for the other three sides having some strict site plan control. We basically said there wouldn't be anything at the west side of the property, and they were going to go through a severance splitting of the property, and somebody else will be developing the property behind the microtel. So I thought that it would be a loose end that we should probably track, that staff should track, and I'm asking if staff support that notion that you know, somebody's going to be responsible for some sort of landscaping agreement or soft drainage plan through grass median or something between the properties. Obviously, as the next property gets developed, there could be a request of them to do some landscaping, but then this property hasn't done anything on that west side. So I'm trying to corner this a little bit and say, I'm hoping that staff will remember and maybe report back to council on those site plans that are, it's almost like a placekeeper saying that this one's an incomplete site plan because the neighboring property we haven't developed what's going to happen between the two properties. It's not part of this site plan, so it's going to come up at some point. So how will it be looked after? Thank you.
Okay, I am certain staff can do that. I'll go here first. Councillor Mike Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just really wanted to extend a congratulatory comment out to Tom and Jennifer Evans and Annie Cabarrus. Boy, this is a wonderful development for Saugeen Shores. 68-room, 3-story hotel, enhanced landscaping plan on the Lake Ridge corner and Super 8 Motel corner. And, you know, whatever the Evans and Cabarrus' touch usually turns to something real special. And so I think there's some really interesting things going to happen on that corner. And one of the things is the covered secure outdoor bicycle parking. And I like to think this will become a new standard for this community where our cycling community is being looked after. So I want to congratulate the developers for the outdoor bicycle parking. I think that's a tremendous addition. And the the rest feature proposed for the corner of Lake Ridge, Highway 21, is a great feature, Mr. Mayor. So I just think this is a real good news story.
Thank you. Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And much of what Councillor Mayette said, I'd echo as well. And just to add that it's really a visionary property developments going on here, and it's going to do so much for the south end of the business area of Saugeen Shores and really start to tie that whole part of town together right to the corner. And I congratulate the Evans and the Cabarrus on reaching this milestone, and best of luck going forward.
If there's no further comments, then the question, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item is, again, authorize a subdivision agreement with it's a bylaw with Lakeside Woods, and it's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, second by Councillor Minaj, that bylaw 81-2018, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into a subdivision agreement with Mystic Cove Developments Incorporated for the development of the Lakeside Woods subdivision, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of October 2018. Any comments, questions? Councillor Grace, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of good things about this. The fact that the developer is entering into a conservation easement with the Escarpment Biosphere Conservancy to protect in perpetuity the remaining woodlands on the site. That's great, and building a trail to connect to other trails. I did have a question about section 27, which talks about blasting. And I wondered, is that in there just as a contingency? Is this really anticipated? And if it's happening, will we be informing people in the neighborhood about it before it happens?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's just a standard clause that if someone was to do that, that would be required, but they are serviced, the site servicing curbs and gutter are already in through the pre-servicing agreement, so there's no blasting needed.
Okay, any further questions? All in favor? Carried. And the final bylaw then is, let me see here. Entering into a winter maintenance agreement with the County of Bruce, and it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, seconded by Councillor Rich, that bylaw 82-2018 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into a winter maintenance agreement with the County of Bruce is hereby read a first, second, and third time, finally passed and sealed this 9th day of October 2018. Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so having read this, what I see is that certain roads that are county roads will be maintained by the town, and vice versa. Certain roads that are town roads are going to be maintained by the county, just out of convenience and what makes logistical sense. I just go back to, my mind brings me back to around this time last year when we were talking about the bridge over Mill Creek, recently completed bridge, and that the detour or the rerouting of traffic you couldn't do it as a detour because we were detouring people from a county standard road to a town standard road. So if that was in fact the case, how are we mixing the two standards together now, where the town's going to be maintaining a road to county standards and the county is going to maintain it to town standards? Are we not going to get tripped up here somewhere?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it's actually, the county does most of the work on our roads, so they're at a higher standard, so it doesn't affect it that way. So they have to do snow clearing more often than we do. What we're really giving to them is the summer maintenance on Bruce Road 25. So when a storm comes and there's flooding in the ditch, we can get there faster. They don't need to bring the trucks from Paisley. So that's really our big end of the deal. And then on Gustavus, we're there and we're doing the intersections, but they're coming back by it again more often. So because of the way the share is, they do more of the standard of care.
We're getting a better end of the deal on this one?
Yep.
I'll take your word on that.
We do this every year, and we have for many, many years. It's a pretty standard agreement that we share with all 8 municipalities the county does. And it differs in each one, but in any case, all in favor? Carried. Well, that's the end. Oops. Next item then is a confirmatory bylaw, and it's been moved by Councillor Grace and seconded by Councillor Dave Mayette, that bylaw 83-2018 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the town of Saugeen Shores is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of October 2018. All in favor? Carried. And it's been moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau that this regular council meeting of October the 9th, 2018 hereby adjourned at 8:09 p.m. All in favor? We're adjourned.
The preceding program was brought to you by Bruce Telecom.